Hey everyone, it's Mike and Jay. Thanks for listening to the podcast. This, though, is one of our special edition podcasts where we get to kind of do a deep dive on a topic or on an individual, and sometimes we just don't have enough time in a regular episode, so we do occasionally, every now and again, one of these special episodes.
Yeah, today we are dropping a conversation with Matt Vaughn. Matt Vaughn is the owner of one of the coolest record stores on the planet in Seattle, called Easy Street, and he was instrumental in Record Store Day. And I had a chance to talk to him recently, and a lot of it's about Record Store Day, but a lot of it's about his relationship with Pearl Jam and how Pearl Jam's album became the largest selling rock record with Record Store Day. So without further ado, here is Matt Vaughn. Let it roll. Hey, Matt. How are you, brother?
I'm good.
I read the story, and I just thought it was so compelling, just all about your relationship with Pearl Jam and their relationship with Record Store Day, and that headline was so cool. You know, Pearl Jam's giveaway top rock album for Record Store Day 2023, biggest selling rock album in Record Store Day history. I'm a big fan of Record Store Day, as you are. If you don't mind, I'm going to hit record and just, I just want to ask you to, talk about Pearl Jam and the relationship to Record Store Day and all of the support. Tell us about that.
Sure. We've been doing Record Store Day for 15 years now, and Pearl Jam's been a band for 30 years. And I'd say that it took 15 years, those early years of PJ, to tell us, hey, you guys, you're making a mistake getting rid of all these records, and I mean, 1993, when Versus came out, they put that record out on vinyl first. So you had a week, all the vinyl heads could listen to it a week before the CD heads.
I remember.
And then, throughout the rest of their career, they just here vinyl was at a 0.001% of the marketplace, and they were insisting on vinyl coming out. And not only that, the packaging was incredible. I mean, Jeff Amen's gone on to win a couple of Grammys for the design and packaging that he's done. Not only for Pearl Jam, but he's also for the Chris Cornell box set a couple of years ago. So that's been pride and joy for him. And the band rallies around packaging and designing and releasing their vinyl. And, vinyl is final. As far as we're concerned, this is the most concrete evidence of music being art. And some would say, well, it's not necessarily good for the environment to be selling all these records. Well, it's art. You don't throw away art,
right? And
you pass it down. Not to say that URP and RTI and so many of the pressing plants aren't recycling. That is happening now,
sure.
And we're going to see more of that. But my relationship with Pearl Jam starts with the beginning, before Easy Street was even born. Stone and I lived around the corner from each other growing up, went to the same middle school. I went to summer school at Roosevelt, which was the same school Mike went to. We'd bump into each other at the same keggers and record shops, and he was really good friends with my sister and her crew, and the Friel brothers and Danny Newcomb. And when Eddie first moved to Seattle, before he settled down, I think he was roommates with Jeff for a while and was bouncing around Capitol Hill, but eventually in 91, 92 or so, he he got a place to live, which he still lives at, the same home that he purchased, that first year or two of Pearl Jam. And that was in West Seattle. And he didn't know anybody. I mean, he was from San Diego or Chicago or whatever. So he didn't really have any friends, which is funny to say, given that Here he was dropping the park in front of, 15, 20,000 people and soon to be a worldwide headliner. But he was at the shop all the time. Fast forward a couple of years, he even worked a full shift for us. And he'd throw basketball parties at his house and invite Easy Street over. And we all just became fast friends. And, the band has been always very curious about the state of not just love and trust, but the state of the industry. Mm-hmm. And they've always been concerned and worried about that record store community, which is what they were born into, and how they became fans. Mike himself, when he left Seattle, when he was with his high school band Shadow, they moved to Hollywood trying to make it, kind of follow the Guns and follow Duff, who also went to Roosevelt High School, and just kind of follow his lead and try to make it in LA because, there were a few success stories, of course, in Seattle, and of course, Jimi Hendrix and the Sonics before that. But there was a struggle to do that. And there was, in the case of Jimmy, he had to go to the UK, go to England and then New York to finally, come home in 1970 and say, hey guys, remember me? Heart was, of course, a great success story, and that gave us all hope that it was possible. Mm-hmm. But to really make it, it seemed as though if you're on the West Coast, you're going to have to go to L.A. or possibly San Francisco. But my point being is that when the band went down there, he got a job at Aaron's Records. Mm-hmm. And so he was a record store guy while he was down there. Some of the first times I remember meeting Stone was, not only in middle school, but, as we got older, I would see him at record conventions and we'd be talking about different records, or I would have a pop-up and he would be at that, or so them talking about various pressings and record labels, they know about all of that. They're record nerds, just like you are, just like I am. And so they are fans of the format. So when they implored us all to spin the Black Circle, in '93, right? They won a Grammy for it. Best rock track, what that song was about is I'd rather have my vinyl than her. I'm in love with my Black Circle. My Black Circle is that spins around, that brings magic to my life. I'd rather have this than this bitch that I'm dealing with over here, and yet nobody was listening to the message really. It was, thank you, baby. It was a great rock track and killer riff, and that's what we were hearing. Of course, guys like me, I see what subconsciously they're trying to say, and that was, guys, people, please do not give up on this format. And eventually, as the years went on, people started to catch up. You know what? They might be right about this.
And a lot of it is because of what you've done, not only at Easy Street, but with Record Store Day it's just phenomenal to see the lines of people and the excitement surrounding that. And
well, we were leading parallel lives in that Easy Street was. We were following suit along with them. I didn't want people to get rid of their records either, and we were still buying used record collections. I was still out going to estate sales back when you could get records really cheap, and the crate diggers were still out there, and the record collectors were still out there. You being one of them, your brother being one of them. I
Absolutely.
mean, we were all still doing it. Come 2005, and we had a very sizable record selection and decent inventory. I mean, to a point where I think it was in 98, 99, the Beastie Boys, came to Easy Street and took it over for the night just so they could have a private shopping experience, because it was so hard to find records.
Amazing.
In New York and everywhere else.
Yeah.
But yeah, in 2005, McCready and I whipped up this fun idea of hosting a secret in-store performance by Pearl Jam in my little Easy Street in West Seattle. And that was his way of, in the band's way, of telling me and all of these record stores that just happened to be descending onto Seattle, and I was hosting this convention, this summit, because this was at a time when record stores were, I think we were down to close to 1,000 in the country. I mean, there were. It was a dilapidated industry, and we were having a meeting of the minds, of the record store minds, of the best record retailers out there. Music Millennium and Waterloo and
Terry
Vintage
Crew,
Vinyl and so many others. And Mike and Eddie and Jeff and Stone and Matt all got together with me, and we had to keep this secret for a couple of months. I think it was on the fourth day of the convention, in the schedule, it said Easy Street Records, the original Easy Street Records, free beer band will play. That's all it said.
Didn't say which one.
It did not say which. It did not say which band. The beer we knew would be Rainier.
Of course.
And I told my staff even, hey, we're going to have a little, party. We're getting rid of all the bins. We'll be remodeling. Show up. It'll be fun. Free beer band will play. So there's 120 of these record store nerds, and only half my staff showed up. There were a couple of merchants on the block that squeezed in the door, just kind of looky-loos. And up in the balcony, which is where I stored a lot of the vinyl, and where my office was, it was all dark, and you couldn't go up there. Well, that's where the band was. They got in there earlier. They did sound check earlier, and then we threw sheets over the
windows,
over the gear. Yeah. At one point, I think there was a guy from Lou's Records in San Diego looks under one of the sheets and sees the Pearl Jam logo, and he's like, "Oh my God, is Pearl Jam playing?" And I race over, and I can see him. He's got a crew of 10 people or so, and everyone's kind of jumping up and down like, guys, hold up. No. Pearl Jam sells off their gear all the time. This is just used equipment.
Nice.
I'm like, oh, bummer. And anyhow, I run upstairs. I go, hey, guys, I think we need to make this happen. Crowd's getting a little restless. They're starting to talk. And Mike's got a flashlight in his mouth, and he's digging through records, and Eddie's writing some lyrics down. I mean, he's just in his own world. Jeff and his girlfriend are hanging out. I mean, everyone's just having a party up there, and we're kind of forgetting that we're putting a show on. Mm-hmm. And I start writing up a speech real quick, and Eddie comes over and looks at it, and he's like, and what I'm saying is essentially what I've been telling you. Hey, these guys have been on our side from the very beginning. They will often say that without record stores, 10 would have never gotten off the ground. Whatever it is, I'm just waxing poetic about Pearl Jam and what they mean to retailers. And Ed grabs it. He's got a red pen in his hand. He starts crossing everything off. He's like, yeah. We'll take care. We'll talk about all that. No, you don't need to say anything. Just introduce us. I was like, oh, geez. Okay. So I run down there. We hit the lights. Everyone's kind of got their back turned. They're all kind of mingling about. They don't know what's about ready to happen. They have absolutely no idea. I mean, they think Mustang Sally is about ready to play. They have no idea what's about ready to happen. And then I walk to the mic and I say, will you please welcome Matt, Stone, Jeff, Mike, and Eddie. And it takes each guy like a minute to walk down the stairs. I mean, they don't get to the stage for another 5 minutes. And Ed walks, and the crowd is like, what's going on? Because I don't know if I even said Pearl Jam. I think I just mentioned them all by their individual names.
Yeah.
And not last names. And so the crowd's kind of like, what's going on here? And one by one, they walk down, and everyone's just looking at you like, what the fuck is happening right now? And Ed gets to the mic, and he said, hey, guys, sorry for the delay. We thought Matt would have a lot more to say. So he just threw me under the bus.
Of course. That's good.
And, of course, then he goes on to say everything I was going to say, but he's saying it about Easy Street, which is so Ed to just flip it. So then they went into a barnstorming set, a good 2 hours. And it's a legendary show, not only because it was at the smallest show they've ever done, at least square footage wise, and possibly even attendance, again, only 120 people. But also because it was a ripping set.
Yeah.
And we had talked to Eddie the night before because, I did have to remove everything out of the shop as far as the bins go.
Right.
The product as well. And it's true. I was going to bring in new bins. So we did toss all of that, but we had to put everything in a 24-foot truck, and I didn't know where to put the truck. I didn't have anywhere to put the truck. I didn't have a driveway. Right. And Ed says, hey, just he comes by the night before. He sees us loading everything up. And he says, just drive it over to my place. So we had the semi truck at his house, and we get out of the truck, and then he starts telling us, hey, we're a little nervous about this show. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, man. I mean, a bunch of record store guys. I mean, we're going to have to bring it. And he wasn't kidding, I mean, he was visible. He was nervous about it. And I'm like, bro, no judgment, man. I mean, come on. There's only going to be 120 people there. Nobody knows what is about ready to happen, and no one has any expectations because they don't know what's happening. But sure enough, yeah, it was just this ripping set. I mean, they do the Avengers song, they do the Dead Kennedy song. I mean, they have John Doe there, who just happened to be in town for the convention.
Oh wow!
The day before, he had done a show at Chop Suey, along with Nancy Wilson. And so John stuck around knowing what was going to happen. and kind of acted as their MC in a way throughout the show, because he just couldn't believe what was happening either, and he's a Pearl Jam fanatic himself, and one of the great inspirations for the band as well. So he got on stage with him. My Morning Jacket happened to be in town. They had done an event for me for the convention. They were in town with Cameron Crowe, because they had done the soundtrack for Elizabethtown. And so Jim James was there, and I recall us introducing Jim to the band, and it happened there. And then, of course, they've, to this day, have been great friends and have toured together. Nancy Wilson was there, and there were a handful of other luminaries in attendance. And and so from that, I knew that they recorded every show. Would they really record the show at Easy Street? Well, they did, and Matt Cameron heard it afterwards. They played a song, and then they played another, and Matt said, "You know what? This is one of the best sounding rooms we've ever played. We should consider releasing this." Right. And that's when I started hearing these rumors that it was actually going to come out on CD, and they wouldn't. Kelly Curtis, Tim Bierman, the band themselves are like, "No, we're handling all of that." And I'm a stickler for branding and design and all of that. I mean, similar to you and your brother too. I mean, I get off on that, and they were pushing me aside, like, no. And in Pearl Jam fashion, of course, the cover is the Brad Clausen illustration of Easy Street with this,
so cool.
Bear monster over the shop, and then they call it Pearl Jam Live at Easy Street, and and then the interior shots and everything else. And so it was this beautiful love letter, really, that they gave me. And then comes another surprise, which is we are going to release it only through independent retailers.
Yep.
Okay, well, that had never been done before by a band of that size. Never. I mean, we had done some things with up-and-coming indie bands, but they needed us as much as we needed them. Well, did Pearl Jam really need us? Well, they sure felt so. They felt indebted to us and felt that it was necessary. And what that did is it gave us as retailers, as independent retailers, the ones that were still standing, this confidence and validation that we hadn't had ever felt from a major band before, let alone a major label. We were getting pushed aside. We weren't part of the exclusive game. That was
big box. Yeah.
That was the big chain stores. That was the big box stores. Now all of a sudden we're in the game. We have an exclusive through our independent network, and that independent network was those same boys and girls that were at the show.
Yeah.
Those 120 retailers that were there. And we did have a coalition that we called the Coalition of Independent Music Stores.
Yep.
And there were, I think, about 60 of us as owners that at our peak, and we would, for 10 years we had been doing this, and it was such a struggle. It was just all about how to stay in business. not necessarily succeed, but just stay in business, sustain,
right. Survive.
Yeah. And so this CD goes on to become our biggest selling CD. We sell thousands of them when it's released. But not only do we, but all of our fellow retailers around the country, and now it's starting to get over to the UK as well. Then we started thinking, you know what? We need to bring in the other stores. There's so many others that are trying to survive too. And we started to hand select and solicit for other stores to be involved. And then we helped create a couple other coalitions. Mm-hmm. And those coalitions amalgamated and converged and became what is today Record Store Day. And Record Store Day was created in 2007. No surprise. The Pearl Jam Live at Easy Street was released in 2006. So I've been on record, and I'll argue that without getting that validation from the biggest rock band in the world, mm-hmm. which is another one that I love to argue, this would have never happened. I just don't think that we would have had the power to get the meetings with the labels to then talk to Foo Fighters, Weezer, Metallica, mm-hmm. And all the rest. Yeah. And here we are now, 2023, and who has the biggest selling rock record of all time on Record Store Day? The Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
20,000 copies sold in one day.
That's incredible.
And a lot of that is because all of us retailers we know the inside story, and we will always walk through hell with a bucket of gasoline for each and every member of Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
Because of what they did back in 2005. And for me, what we ran parallel and ran the relay race together since 1988 in some cases, as far as Jeff and Stone go, and Mike, and Matt and Ed doing his thing too. I mean, I was recently at his house. I was surprised. I was shocked how many records he had.
That's good to hear.
Years ago, he sold me a bunch of records. For credit, of course. And
right.
I thought that was all his records. I thought he was getting out of it. That was years ago, and I remember being surprised by that. And I asked him, I thought you sold me all those. He goes, no, man, those are my dupes.
Wow.
He said, I ain't selling my records. You kidding?
Yeah. That's good to hear. It sounds like, you're in their DNA and vice versa. And they gave you a seat at the table, so to speak, and gave you credibility. But I think it would have happened anyway. But man, it sure helped to have Pearl Jam behind all of that. And I can't tell you how excited we are about Record Store Day when it comes around, and we talk about it on the podcast a lot, and we can't wait to line up. But I just love seeing it grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I mean, with things like Taylor Swift and Metallica and some of these things that are, it's a beast and it's global, and that didn't happen by accident.
Well, and I think one reason why you see 20,000 copies sell on giveaway is simply that the demand is so high and there's more stores now.
Yeah.
So there we were in 2005 having that convention with 1,000 stores or so, and now we're up to 4,000 or 5,000 in the country now.
Amazing.
And that's only growing, and that's happening worldwide.
Yeah. Well, Matt, this has been so great talking with you. I can't wait to share this with our listeners. And
thanks for reaching out to me, and good talking to you again.
Yeah, good talking with you too. And I'll see you next time I'm in West Seattle visiting my brother.
Right on. All right, Jay.
All right, thanks, man. Have a great day.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.